Have you found yourself wondering, is there something more? If so, then you, my friend, are a dreamer in waiting. I'd like to welcome you to the Dream On podcast. I'm Julia Gentry, and along with my husband, Travis Gentry, we discuss real, raw, and not small talk conversations about faith, family, entrepreneurship, and all the things that matter most in this life in order to help people bridge the gap between what they currently have and what they really want most. Join us as we give you insights, tools, and strategy to chase every dream that's on the inside of you, but be forewarned. This podcast is not for the faint of heart, but rather those of heart. This is the Dream On podcast. Welcome to another episode of Dream On podcast. I am Julia Gentry, and I'm with my favorite friend, favorite person,
co-host,
husband, partner in crime, Travis Gentry. And today we're going to be talking about how to overcome doubt.
Yes, and this episode is sponsored and brought to you by the Dream Factory & Co. Go to thedreamfactoryandco.com to learn more about
all the things.
Everything.
Oh, I'm so glad that we have sponsors, you know.
I know, they've been amazing.
They have been amazing. I mean, they just help people get unstuck and clear about the dreams that are in them.
The community that they're building is amazing.
It's amazing.
And the swag, the shirts, the hats, the stickers.
They have a text message marketing that if you text DREAM NOW to 22999, they literally blow up your phone twice a week with the most empowering, encouraging text messages.
That's awesome.
Yep. And their owner is writing a book that's about to be launched in like weeks.
And what is that book called?
It's called Dream I Dare You.
Oh man,
and
that's going to be so good.
Blow people's minds.
It's like the complete package. I mean, if you really think about it, the 6 or 7 weeks. No, it's not 6 weeks anymore. It's 7 weeks.
Same price, just longer.
Yeah. I mean, at some point it may go to 8 weeks. We'll see.
Same price.
We'll see.
Okay.
All the things.
So thank you to the Dream Factory & Co. We love you.
Yep. So back to our episode, which is overcoming doubt.
Doubt. And I think right out of the gate, I would like to be clear about what doubt is. And when I've been studying this whole idea of doubt, there's a big difference that I just really want to make sure that we're clear on, because there's a difference in doubt and fear. And fear, I think for most people, when we think about overcoming fear is always like already like this decided thing. Like, I'm afraid. I'm already freaking afraid. You know, like I fear something. I'm already decided. I am afraid, and there's really very little that you can do to change my mind. Doubt is undecided belief. It's undecided fear. I haven't quite yet decided.
That's really deep.
Yeah,
you need to break that down for me.
So doubt is I'm not totally afraid. I just don't know if I'm afraid yet.
Oh, okay.
So fear, this is why I just kind of want to make sure that people are clear about fear and doubt. Fear is I'm already afraid.
I'm convinced. I'm going to be scared of whatever it is.
Right. And the acronym that we all know, false evidence appearing real, right?
Yep.
Like we believe it's real. So I fear and it's real. Doubt, right out of the gate, whoever's dealing with doubt, I want to know that there's huge potential when you doubt, because doubt means I'm undecided in my belief.
That's good.
So I just want to start there, because we're not necessarily talking about fear today. We're talking about doubt, and yes, overcoming our doubt. But I think you had even said this when we were talking about the titles, the potential titles, and you said something about how did you say it? The potential of doubt, or I can't remember exactly how you said it, but it alluded to this a whole idea that there's potential to our doubt. Like our doubt is signaling us of something bigger, better, that there's possibilities. And so I think that in this, it's learning that doubt, there is potential.
Mm-hmm.
There's huge potential.
I like it.
So let's talk about doubt today.
So doubting is like getting clear on, am I afraid? Should I be afraid? Or am I excited? Should I be excited? Okay.
So that's where we're going to go. Like if we could get to, I hope that this more than anything is not just like this 1, 2, 3 step guide of like, here's how you overcome your doubt, right? No, we're going to talk about the actual opportunity that our doubt is presenting us. Because I think it's actually giving us more opportunity than we think it is.
Well, let's just get right into it. I mean, tell me what, so what would be a scenario, or what would be, okay, let's give a couple potential scenarios, I guess is the best word, is what maybe people are facing right now, or what we faced in the past, you know? So let's start with one that's pretty easy and obvious, of job. So I don't like my job, I want to switch my job, or I have an okay job, I get paid well, but I don't feel called to this. I want to do something else. Or I just got fired from my job.
Totally. Right. Or we'll give another scenario. Let's just give a couple that come to our mind. Or, right, like we consider everything that we talk about, right? Like we think about our dreams, the thing that we really want to be doing, the thing that's most important to us. Having more, we'll just call it like relationships, like just more connection in our relationships, right? Or taking our marriage to the next level. Or I think people, as of late, especially after COVID, are like, I just miss my people. You know, like I just want
community.
I want better community. Like I even look back and was like, maybe the community I had before wasn't as strong as it could have been. And now that I've been further away from people, but I don't know how to do that, right? I think that there's room for doubt there.
Should I live here or should I not live here?
I don't know who should
I live in this state or that state? Should I travel on an RV? Should I not travel on an RV?
Should we travel full time? Should we live in Phoenix or Austin or Florida? I almost forgot where we were for a second. It's hard to be us. So I think that there's like when you're considering where we're going to have a home base, I mean, that's a huge part of our journey right now, which is where do we want to have a home base, right? So it starts with really interesting high-level questions like, where do we want our home base to be? Or what would a life of my dreams look like? Or, how could I enhance my relationships? Or how could I lose the weight, right? Like we ask these big questions, and then immediately I think what happens is we shift into the doubt zone.
And it's not even bad, like it's whatever, all the examples that we just gave, it could be okay.
Yeah, but I think what happens for most people that aren't conscious about it, I think that doubt has a negative connotation to it, as opposed to like potential opportunity, like what we're going to talk about today, right? Where it's like the minute, even for you and I, here we are again on an adventure, which most people watching may go, okay, they're just traveling full time. Well, for you and I, we knew that this is also a huge piece to finding our home base. And being that I've lived in 27 homes in 34 years, right? And ever since you and I have been married, we haven't lived in a place longer than like 2 years.
One place we lived in for 2 years.
But everything else was like a year and under.
Yep.
And even before that, since you graduated and moved out from your family, you've not lived in a place longer than a year either.
Yeah.
And so a home base for us, though that sounds awesome and quote unquote normal people do that, this is a big step for us to figure out where we want to have a home base. Well, what happens is, I think for most people, you set out to go find that answer, right? Like, what would I do for a business? What would I do, or what do I want with a home base? Or how do I strengthen this relationship, right? We start to step out to find the answers to those questions, and then immediately we're greeted at the door of our lives with doubt. And
Mr. Doubt.
Mr. Doubt.
Just comes knocking on the door. For
Johnny
sure. Mr. Doubter.
Donnie Doubter.
Welcome to our life.
And I think he was coming. Let's go Donnie Doubter today. Donnie Doubter comes to the door, and I think that he gets a bad rap. And I think he gets a bad rap because he comes asking clarifying questions, right? Like, well, what if it doesn't work? And what if it fails? And, what if what's happened in the past happens before? And what if you can't depend on people? And what if you can't depend on yourself? And what if you make the wrong choice? And all of a sudden, by the time Donnie gets down to like question number 10, you're like, maybe he's right.
Mm-hmm. Or it could even be and come from family doubters, friends doubters.
We're just going to call him Donnie.
Yeah, but we're putting it, but I'm also saying like, it also comes in people that love you the most sometimes. They ask questions, not necessarily trying to throw you off, but then it plants the seed, and that's when Mr. Doubter comes and really starts to manifest that, and you start to think like all the things, what if, and all the possibilities of it not happening, or mistakes and fear and all the things start to manifest itself.
Totally.
So let's give a little bit more context, because I think it's real and raw to us right now.
Yeah.
Us traveling is one. We love travel. I love adventure. I love seeing new things, meeting new people, culturally, food, everything. And so the other side of this is being intentional of like, let's travel and figure out where we want to have a home base.
Yeah.
We like warm water. Or weather.
We like warm water. Because our pool, let's be honest, our pool is
our pool's
and even
right now.
Florida, first world problems, it's cold.
not relative to the Midwest right now, but
first world problems.
But yes, we like warm weather. We like the ocean. We like the mountains. So for us, it's like, it's all first world problems.
Sure.
But we're on this journey to where do we want to live right now? Not when we're 65, when we retire. We're making that conscious choice to pattern interrupt, disrupt our life, to go and seek out where we truly want, but all the doubts come into play.
Well, and I'm actually, if I'm being totally candid, I am really surprised by our levels of doubt. So if I back up a couple of years, when we first started traveling the country in RV full-time in the A class, and we went, we saw things at a rapid pace, right? Like we were in and out within 3 to 5 days, depending on where we were at. So we went all over, right, more of the southwest part of the United States. And so to me, this was like, we were going to go hit the main cities that were like, let's go spend extended time in the areas that we loved, right? Like we spent extra time in Bend, we spent extra time in Arizona, extra time in Austin. Now we're over here in Orlando, and then we'll go over to Bradenton. Right, like we really want to go, like, let's go immerse ourselves in the area, because being somewhere for 3 to 5 days doesn't tell you a lot, right?
It's fun.
It's fun, right? Like you don't see there's pros and cons to every city and every town. And so I think what I have been so surprised by is the levels of doubt this time around. And why I think this conversation is so powerful is because I think, one, it's human nature, and we're so dang hard on ourselves when we doubt, right? Like we feel like we're the only ones, I think that's a slippery slope in and of itself, of like, especially you and I who should feel bold and courageous and all the things. And it's like, there's been days that our doubt has felt debilitating. And I think what comes up for me is, what if we make the wrong choice? What if we don't like it? What if I actually, can't practice what I preach, like that knowing? What if I'm actually hearing the wrong voice, right? What if I pick a place for the wrong reasons? And then the what ifs have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is why I think doubt is so interesting, because it's just there at first, helping me recognize like, ooh, I've not picked a side yet. I don't know those answers, which is fine. Like, this is the beauty of potential doubt. When Donnie knocks on our door, at first you're like, huge potential here, because he's bringing up a solid point. Like, oh, I actually don't know that I know exactly what I want. And I don't know exactly what my biggest fears are, or what would failure look like. Like, he's almost presenting clarifying questions. But it's when I actually start to lean into the negative side of it that my doubt turns into fear. Like, now the false evidence of the doubt is actually appearing real. And the idea of failing, now I've turned into feeling like a failure. Or the idea of maybe I won't hear God's voice is turned into like, I don't hear God's voice. And maybe like, those times that I failed before, I'm just taking those same behaviors with me, and I will fail again. And so it's like, doubt is giving me an opportunity to like pick a side of belief, but it's so easy to shift into fear. And once I'm in fear zone, you're like decided. I'm a failure. I don't hear God. I don't know what I want.
I'm going to make the wrong decision.
I'm going to make the wrong decision. And now my doubt has turned into fear. And fear is what's like paralyzing, which is why the Bible says like countless times, fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, for I am with you. Right? Like God is so specific on why we shouldn't fear, because I think it's just the point of like collateral damage.
Yeah.
But there's opportunity with doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much there to unpack as far as, okay, if we're talking about how to overcome that, because we're in the midst of specifically that. So as we process this, we're looking at and unpacking each one of those.
Yes.
So because it's multi-pronged, it's not like just one doubt.
Yep.
It's, what if I make the wrong decision?
Yep.
What if I don't like it here after all?
Yep.
And we move all of our stuff to wherever we're going.
Yep.
And we buy a house or rent a house or whatever that looks like, and then we don't like it.
Totally.
And so then you start to unpack it. So here's how we're doing that. Is that we're looking at it piece by piece and looking at, okay, this is a doubt that's coming up for me right now. And then we look at it from like, okay, I hear that. Now, what is the worst case, like taking it layer by layer?
Totally.
Okay, so if we don't like it here, then what?
So I think that then what, right? So like if we could give an example, I feel like Donnie Doubter is like knocking at our door, and you're always allowed to open the door, and Donnie's going to go, hey, what if this doesn't work out? And you go, great point. You shut the door. Don't let him in your home, right? Like if he comes in your home and he takes a seat on your couch, he's going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And then he turns into like Mr. Freddie Fear.
He's just coming up with these random. No, he invites his friends over, other doubters.
He does. He brings all the doubters and then turns into fear. So the idea here is almost like, okay, if he comes to the door and it pops up, it's like, hear it, and then shut the door and like actually go and really to your point, okay, and then what? Like, let's really look at this for what it is and not like make it bigger than it needs to be. And that doubt, what if the things that I am doubting is just an opportunity to get curious about my realist answer?
Yeah. Because through this process, you also will discover what you thought you wanted is not really what you want.
Which is part of the process.
Which is part of it, but that's the doubt of like, well, I made a mistake. Well, I didn't make a mistake. It was very clear that I made this decision and now I got new information and it's not the right decision.
Totally, but we are so stinking hard on ourselves as people. Like we're so hard on ourselves that we expect some level of perfection that I just don't even feel like we're giving ourselves the grace to go like, this is part of the process. And the minute that we start to hold ourselves to the standard, it's almost like there is a God and we must be it. And so therefore we made the wrong choice and now I'm a failure. No, God is bigger than any failure. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the one that's like coordinating this whole thing. Like we can plan our steps, but he's going to direct our steps all day long. Like we make a plan, he directs our steps. And I think we just start to think that we are above him, right? That like our doubt needs to be listened to or paid more attention to than the God who's leading us.
Yeah. Well, I think, yes. And through this process, I think we can elaborate on, but what I wanted to say is whether it's a friend, let's say friends and family give you input and they speak, in which plants the seed of doubt.
Right.
It's just information, and the information could be good, but maybe that information is good for them, not you.
Totally.
And so I think you've got to be careful of who you're taking specifically from. I think you have, the enemy that plants seeds of doubt, and then you have people that plant the seeds of doubt.
And then you have your own,
and then your own kind of interpretation of those. Yes. But when you get friends and family, and they bring up things that are challenging to you and that plants the seed of doubt, and they say, well, I wouldn't do that. And you're like, that's great, I totally understand, but here, this is really important because of the fact of like, it's so many people are willing to give you advice, and that advice could be really good for them, but not for you.
Oh, and if you just say like, listen to your words, like, I wouldn't do that if I was you, it's kind of like, but you're not me.
Yeah.
And so it's good, right? Like it could be really bad for them, right? Like most people would even say like, oh, I could never travel full time. And we'd look at them and go, please don't. You know, like
it's not for you.
It's not for you, and it's not for everybody, right? Like even in our podcast, I've been thinking about this so much in the podcast of the walk of faith to greater things, because it's been one of our most downloaded episode, is that when you start to walk out in faith, you take a step, right? Like faith is action. You're moving in the direction of what you want most. Once you start moving, like you decide, you and I knew that we were going to get on the road because we just knew that it was a part of our journey. We knew we wanted to find a home base. We really felt called to like get back in motion again. And we knew that God had our next step once we started moving. We just knew that was true. Mm-hmm. Then we have things that happen that I believe are really asking us, look, it could turn into doubt, but now we're going, do we believe? Do we believe? Right? And so I think that moments of doubt are actually opportunity to strengthen the original decision, to strengthen the original area of focus, to strengthen, where we want to go. Like where we're going is going to require a better version of us. But then when questioning from our family comes, or hard circumstances, or those negative thoughts, or a little pressure or tension, or a couple setbacks or failures, we look at those as though something's wrong or we didn't do something right. And it's like we forget the mission. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like we forget why we stepped out in faith in the first time. We forgot that, no, I want to chase my dream, or I want to start my own business, or I want more, connection in my marriage, or whatever that thing is. It's like the doubt starts to get in the way. Instead of it building strength, it's like it creates fear. And instead of continuing to move forward towards the mission, I'm like reverting back to where I came from.
Yeah. So going through the process, what I'm hearing you say, or the thoughts that are coming to my mind is like, when we were in Austin, mm-hmm. I remember talking to someone and said, hey, we're from Denver.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh man, I would love to live in Denver. And you're like, why don't you? Because that's our mentality of like, if you wanted to so bad, like, why don't you? And a lot of people hold on to, I would love to. Mm-hmm. And they never flush it out because maybe they like the idea, but it's really, they don't want to.
Totally.
Just like Florida. We came down here to Florida to think like maybe we could live in Florida.
Yep.
I don't think we've come to the conclusion, this isn't like where we want to be all the time, but we could always wonder and have that doubt of where we are. It distracts you from being present too. So we live somewhere and we're like, oh, I've always wanted to live there. Yeah. Well, let's go flesh it out. Yeah. And then the doubt comes in as far as we went to Austin, we went to Phoenix again, we're down in Florida, we're going back up to Bend, Oregon. We're going on this to make sure that those doubts aren't there so we can be present to where we're at. Yeah. And through this process, it brought up more doubts of why are we doing this? Right now, we've got our capacity is stretched.
Okay, so here's now looking back. Here's what I think happened and what I think is a pivotal moment in spots of doubt. So when we left, we knew that we felt called to go. We felt like we wanted to put the books in as many hands as we can. You wanted to look at different real estate markets, and we really wanted to find a home base, right? Then we hit a pocket of insane amount of doubt, right? And I think our doubt even turned into some fear. I think we started to look back. I think we started to recount all the times that we've made mistakes. I think that we started looking at all the potential things that could go wrong. I think we started looking back. And this is where I think, and we're going to talk about, I want to incorporate this concept of liminal space, because I think that what happens is the minute that you make a decision to go towards the desire, the goal, the dream, the mission, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever people want to call it. You make a decision, that's where I want to go. And we all know the idea that the day that you plant a seed and the day that you harvest the seed are very different days. But for whatever reason, day 3, we're like, why the hell is this not growing? I want to be successful in business. And on day 30, we're like, this isn't working, right? Or I want to make my marriage better. But after 10 years of having a disconnected marriage, 30 days in, we have this false expectation that it should just be better, right? So I think what happens is we take our eye off of the prize. We take our eye off of the goal. We take our eye off of the dream. We start listening a little bit too much to our doubt. Then we start toying around. To your point, we bring them in the house with all the friends who come in and start hooping and hollering and asking us, all these additional follow-up questions. Well, what if this, and what if that, and well, what about this, and what if this happens, and remember the last time you did that? And all of a sudden our brain takes over, and our brain only knows how to give us information based upon what it's experienced, right? It's all about the past. It keeps me safe. It keeps me today present based upon everything it's already experienced from my past.
Mm-hmm.
So then instead of looking at where I'm going, right, my walk of faith to a place that I've never been, never achieved it, never done it, never accomplished it, right? Like that's in and of itself so vulnerable and takes so much courage and boldness and a willingness just to keep saying yes. But you start to get distracted, and then all of a sudden the distraction turns to fear. And now I'm looking back. And now I just want to go back to familiar. And now I just want to go back to the world that I know. And even if it's not something that served me, right? Or wasn't that healthy of a relationship or that healthy of a life or the job I didn't like, at least I know it.
Yeah. And sometimes through this process, you get out of it what you weren't even intending to get.
Totally.
So through the doubt,
right?
But it brings new awarenesses and new ideas and thoughts.
Right. But I think let's talk a little bit more first about like this liminal space. I think that's what I want to hit on before that other side of it, which is that space in between. Right? Because that's really what liminal space is. It's the space in between. I've let go of my past. I've let go of where I was. I've let go of habits or patterns or the addiction. I've let go of it. It's not serving me anymore. I've actually taken the step to go, great, I'm done. I'm going to move on.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I haven't grabbed on to the goal. I'm not seeing the result, right, of what I really want. And it's like this great hallway of in between. And they even say this is the definition of it. It's the ambiguity or disorientation that occurs in the middle of the rite of passage. Right? This is the liminal spaces from the study of societies and cultural development. This is why I think this is so interesting. I think what starts to freak us out is that we're in liminal space and we didn't even know it was a thing.
I mean, I think, me personally, I knew we were going into, like, we've been talking about liminal space for a while. You're talking about most people.
I'm saying most people. Like, remember when we first figured out what liminal space was, and it was like, oh my gosh.
Well, I remember like saying it. I was in a mastermind, and I was like, I'm in liminal space. You know, like I own it.
Yeah.
Hey, like here's where I'm at.
Yes, because the ambiguity.
I've let go. I'm searching for something, and I haven't grabbed onto anything yet. But I think yes. So.
Because listen to these two words: ambiguity and disorientation.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're like, what the heck am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it feels, you almost kind of feel blank. You know, like you hear what people are saying, or again, right? Like you're trying to learn, you're trying to observe, and you're like, I don't know why, but I'm not, I'm not even absorbing what I hear you saying. Like you're blowing my mind, but I can't grab onto it yet, right? Because you're like blowing my worldview on even such a small scale. Like you're blowing my understanding, because all my brain knows again is the things that it knows, and now the fact that what you're presenting me is something that's such a mind blow, that it's like so ambiguous, that I'm so disoriented. That's liminal space. Like this concept blew my mind. And now looking back to our journey, I think that's what happened in Austin. And I don't think that I was specific enough to call it that we're just in the hallway of in between. But don't keep listening to the doubt and rehearsing the questions and then looking for all the negative and then looking for the fear and confirming the biases to be true, because it's only going to shoot me back to where I came from, but it's never going to take me to where I want to be.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly, and maybe that was what I was getting to specifically. So Austin was that for us, for sure. It
was awful.
There's a lot of doubt.
People even had something that they go, how was Austin? I was like, oh my gosh. I think that
we almost pulled, like, we're like, let's just rent the house. Let's just buy a house. Let's just, like, all these things, all the doubts.
No, like, legitimately, I mean, people understand this. Travis actually went to go look at rentals when we were in Austin, because we were like, the disorientation and the levels of doubt and fear and worry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I honestly don't know that I can remember a time in the last 5 years that I felt like that.
And I would also say, that's what I was trying to get at too. When you're in this process, whether you know it or not, now you do. Now you have a name for it. Mm-hmm. Call it liminal space. When you go from the known to the unknown, whether you know it or you don't know where you're going. Like if you have a job and you're like, I'm going to quit my job and I don't know what I want to do, or you do know what you want to do, but it's a journey to get there. For sure. You have to go back to school. You have to learn new skills.
You got to start.
You start a business, whatever it may be. But in that process, specifically for us, we also stopped drinking. Mm-hmm. So that in it,
the coping mechanism was out.
Yeah. But through this process, we're getting things that we didn't even anticipate.
Agreed.
Because we looked at it and said, here's what we used to do.
Yeah.
Here's how we used to hide and not take ownership or really press into this doubt. Yeah. Like, so we invited Mr. Doubter in, Donnie and some of his friends to sit down with them to really hash this out and see like, I want to understand this at a deeper level. And some of that doubt gets heightened when you drink, when you drugs, when you food, shop, whatever, like spend way more money than you have, like all the things. So you have to stop and look at it. Yeah. Like you say, it's a thing under the thing. So this doubt is birthed, but then you have like something else that comes off of it. Yeah. And it's not necessarily that. Like you said, it's maybe from the past that you're bringing into the future. Yes. Or something else that kind of manifests in there, but it's really not the thing.
No, and this is why I think that doubt is so huge in our lives, is that it is just information at the knocking on your door. It's just, the minute that doubt pops up, it's almost like if we can ask ourselves, okay, what do I believe? Am I going to listen to my head of the past? Right? And all of the fear, right? And the worry and all the failure that could turn into this and could turn into that. And right, it's a downward spiral. I'm not, just for a second, I'm not suggesting to do a checks and balance and ask all the clarifying questions. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm either going to go that way or I'm going to look ahead at what I want most. And it's an opportunity to go, all my doubt is doing, all Donnie is doing at my door is asking me, what do I believe? Do I believe my dreams and where I'm going and what God has awaiting for me? Or do I believe my fear and my worry and all the other things? Like, it's just asking me to pick a side. Yeah. It's wanting me to start doing push-ups to become a stronger version of me. So as I continue my walk of faith, I'm actually stronger. It's not just about getting there, right? It's about staying there. It's about being a stronger version of me, right? And I, even in my book, I say this, that like your dreams aren't trying to make a believer out of everybody else. They're trying to make a believer out of you, right? My doubt is there just almost preparing me to be a stronger version of me and to tell myself, or right, parents who maybe are even trying to kind of go, hey, have you thought about this? Or friends are going like, I wouldn't do that if I was you. Or people in the industry going, the industry's never done that, or whatever. For you to be able to speak out of your mouth in faith, I hear you, I appreciate your feedback, but I can't not do this. This is something that I know I was born to do, need to do, will be good for my family. I've been at my job long enough, like it's my time. I told myself that this year I was going to chase the things that are most important to me. Like that moment is waiting for you to share with you and right the rest of the world. No, I believe. Mm-hmm. Doubt is just, again, the Bible talks about like he who wavers is like being tossed to and fro, about to and fro on the ocean. The reason that we're tossed to and fro is because we're going, do I believe? Do I not believe? Mm-hmm. Do I believe? Do I not believe?
And then through that process, it's allowing you to let go of certain habits and patterns and pick up new ones and new awarenesses. Okay,
so that's the key. So let's talk about that in just a second. I think let's just bring this one home. Maybe from me. Thank you, all you listeners. We're just doing therapy right now. This is partly why we started the podcast too, so we could talk this out. So in moments of doubt, it's just asking me, do I believe? What do I believe? It's actually there not to break me, it's there to make me. Then when I realize that, okay, this is an opportunity to decide, what do I believe? That's all my doubt is asking me. It's not saying, oh, you can't do this. It's asking me, do you think you can do this? It's not saying you should be afraid. It's asking, are you afraid? It's not saying you're going to fail. It's what if you fail? Doubt will ask you a question. answer it in authority. Answer it based upon where you're going, not where you've been. Answer it based upon what God told you, the dream, the vision, the goal. Answer it based upon that, not based upon the fear. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but and it's all though having, you brought yourself to where you're at.
Right.
So there again, I hear what you're saying, and you have to then let go of something.
Correct.
And add something new. So I have to be equipped with new information. So if I want to start a business, I've never started a business, I need to then be equipped. There's a lot of fear and doubt.
Yeah.
Doubt that happens when it's really exciting, and then there's a lot of doubt.
Totally.
Well, I need to let go of some of the things in the past, but more so, I need to equip myself with new
absolutely
thoughts, patterns, habits.
Right. And I think that that's the power of the liminal
information.
Yeah, that's the power of liminal space. So once you decide that, no, I believe I'm going to start a business, and the brain's going to go, well, but how do you do that? I don't know yet. Let's be honest. I don't know yet. Even for our situation, which really, where are you going to live? We don't know yet. Well, what do you mean you don't know? We don't have enough information. We're not wrong. We're not going to fail. We don't have enough information. Period. Right? So now it goes, okay, then we have our work cut out. We got to go figure out more information. We need to figure out what the next step is. Or to your point, the reason that liminal space is such a slippery slope is in those moments, and I had a few of them in Austin, which has been surprising in our, journey of sobriety. It's not been as hard for me personally as I would have thought, except when we were in Austin. Because those moments, for whatever reason, felt easier just to go back and to check out. Mm-hmm. It just felt like it was easier to go back and check out. But what I think what you're alluding to is that in that moment, I need to fill it with something new. If I take something out of my life, then I need to fill it with something new, mm-hmm. as opposed to just being empty. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about, in your opinion, what does that process look like for you? So if you're taking something out, maybe give an example or something currently that you've seen in your life, or the difference between being in Austin and now being here. What was the thing that was taken out, and what did you fill it with?
Well, I think for our process, it's been, we're going to travel. We don't have an end in sight. We're just going to go, and we want to go to these places to see if those are places that we want to settle down. Mm-hmm. Through, and careful what you ask for. Both of us, I think, we're just not being stretched. Mm-hmm. We haven't hit our capacity.
Before we left, you're saying?
Yeah. And so not only did we leave and traveling with 4 kids and trying to homeschool and finding a new nanny, and we love working out. And so finding a gym, and then an office, and then me pressing into real estate and having 2 people work with me, and figuring out exactly the business model, not in one market, but a couple markets, yeah. And then you doing all the things. It's like we hit our capacity in a few different areas really quick.
Right.
And so then you look at it, okay, what's important to me now?
Yeah.
So travel was important mm-hmm. to me. Mm-hmm. And now it's not as important because my priorities have shifted.
Sure.
And so that awareness of okay, we set out to do this, and now we're going to adjust it. So the doubts in Austin of understanding, these are real, and where I want to go, what do I need to let go? Stop drinking. I need to spend a little bit more time in the business, more so than I ever have.
Yeah.
And now the shift is we are finding a home.
Yeah.
That's our priority now.
Totally.
So now I have something to go towards.
Yeah.
We're not 100% sure
right.
on where that place is, but we've also, through the process of elimination,
totally.
Now I'm not looking in those places as though, could we live there? Yeah. Should we live there? Do we want to live there? All the things. So now as we've gotten clear, we're going towards, for me, because that's kind of the role that I do and I love, is now hunting for properties and opportunities in places that we want to. So now I have something to go towards.
Right. So I was just going to say, so even if you could break this down a little bit, right? I think a coping mechanism, you could say drinking, right? So once you let go of drinking, right, which is just hiding, it's just a way to hide. Mm-hmm. Now you just use a term, and again, not trying to be ambiguous or create any disorientation for people, but instead of checking out, you're hunting. Mm-hmm. right? So there's one thing, again, that they say an addict of any kind goes back to their addiction. Like 70 to 80% of people go back, not because they want to, but because they don't fill it with anything more progressive, right? And so they go back to it because it's what they know. And so they don't fill it with something new, right? So when we first stopped drinking, right, instead of drinking every other day from 4 to 6, I would go to the gym and I would run and I would listen to something that was like actually good for my mind and my body, and I would work out, right? Because really at 4 to 6, I did actually need just some time to like get in a different zone, right? Whether it's because it was a work day or being with the kids all day or full-time travel, like I conditioned myself to go, I need a drink. Like how often do I just need a drink? I need to check out, right? Or I have a client who's like, I just need a smoke break. Just need a smoke break. And I'm like, well, what do you really need? And she goes, I just need to breathe. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the best thing I've ever heard. And because she's trying to stop smoking. And I'm like, so what you're saying is that you want to breathe, but yet you're inhaling a cigarette. And she says, yes. And I go, so are you actually ever really getting a chance to breathe? And she's like, no. And I said, so we keep, right, alcohol. Yeah, so it's like, what I need is a break, but if I drink, I'm actually only creating more like activity in my mind and my body, right? With alcohol, which is just sugar. It's just like sending this rush in my body. I'm not resting. I'm not like checking out. My body's actually engaged because of all the sugar.
And not getting clear too.
And not getting clear.
It prohibits you from actually looking at the next step. Okay,
exactly.
This is not what I want.
Yep.
So then what do I want? And I just need to know the next step.
Exactly.
Instead, I'm going to drink and circle around and not find that next step.
Absolutely. So the idea here with liminal space and how you do this is that you're like consciously choosing to not just let go of the thing, not just let go of fear. You have to grab faith. Don't just let go of the addiction. You have to grab onto like the vision, the dream, right? Like you've got to move it out of your life, but then you have to almost like double, triple down on whatever it is that wherever you're going next.
Yeah. And that's why it can be such as we're talking this out, like it can be such a scary place to stop doing something and go after something that you know or not know, and just let it be, like I don't know 100%, but I've got to stop doing this and all the things that come up. But it's almost like a weed as you're walking and there's weeds and you pull it. Well, if you don't get the root out, that weed comes back.
Yeah.
So you have to understand, like, what is it? And for us, we would go back to drinking.
Totally.
So I'll just drink because that makes me feel like I pulled that weed.
Yeah.
But tomorrow it comes back around 4 o'clock.
Yes.
Well,
but I think, okay, so think about this, walk through. But if we all of a sudden, you actually pull out those weeds and you uproot them and you're looking at a space and it's empty. Like this is, I think, what liminal space feels like, to your point. Like if we really empathize with ourselves and the people around us that are potentially going through a liminal space, is that it's like emptying a room or clearing out our house. And it just, even when we got rid of it, right, everything a couple of times, right, or we just moved this last time before we started this journey, I looked around at this empty house and you're like, at first, you're like, this looks amazing. It's clean, it's spotless, like get rid of the habits, get rid of the patterns, like start fresh. But if you stay in an empty house long enough, it's so lonely and it's quiet. And it's like you're a little disoriented and it doesn't feel like home and it looks nothing like what you're familiar with.
And then you put more stuff in it.
Like liminal space is just nothing. And so then what we do is we like go out to the dumpster, we go out back to that and we just put it back in because we're like
that's what I'm saying. You feel it. So consciously you have to be aware with what you're feeling with it.
Correct.
Are you feeling with the stuff from the dumpster?
Yep.
Or are you filling it with new information, new thoughts?
Totally. But I think that's why it's important to kind of go like, this is why this is such a slippery slope, because no wonder our doubt turns into fear. You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't even know that this was a thing, first of all. And so of course it's easy to grab onto the fear, into the worry, into the doubt and the anxiety and all the things that we're accustomed to. Of course it's easier just to grab onto the familiar, even though it's not serving us. But the goal, to your point, is with your whole self. It's like you have to throw yourself at your vision. Like you have to throw yourself at the next result that you want more. Like convinced, I believe, I'm going to dive in until I know how to do it.
And as we're saying this, a few things, I know conversations that you've had that I think really prohibit people from even entering in liminal space. is I think fear of missing out, the fear of unknown, or just the unknown in general, and comparison.
Totally.
So it's easy, you know, we've talked to a couple people as of late, and it's like, well, I'm staying here because of the benefits, but I'm miserable.
It like kills my soul.
And so, but there again, it's like, if they only knew and walked through, because that's doubt.
Yeah.
I doubt, I'm not even going to take the next step and dream and think about what's possible because doubt has set in.
Yeah.
What if I don't have these benefits?
Yeah.
Or what if I don't have this retirement package? I remember talking to someone probably 4 months ago, and they're staying in, the job is okay, but they're staying in this career for the next 15 years.
Best years of their life, too.
Best years of their life, because they're 30-ish. And they're going to stay in it because of the benefits. If they stay another 15 years, they get these benefits, which are very mediocre. And especially in 15 years, depending on appreciation and what the dollar is worth and all the things, like it's really not going to, so they limit themselves of like, they can make 10 times that if that's really what they're concerned about. But doubt sets in of like, no, I'm not going to do it because I doubt that I can't make any more or do something better than what I have.
Well, and what's so interesting, right? Again, there's that doubt that came and goes like, well, what if I can't find anything bigger, right? What if I can't find a better benefit package? Question, Donnie knocking on my door, right? Like, let's walk this out for a second. Donnie knocks on the door and goes, what if you can't find a better benefit package? You shut the door and you go, all right, is that true? Right? Like, is it more possible for me to make money elsewhere? Is there such thing as multiple streams of income? Who do I know that is making more, doing what they love? Right? Like, it's almost like you want to like, instead of just taking that doubt and hunkering down and going, oh, you asked me a question, but I'm going, you're right. You know, like again, Donnie's not trying to be right or wrong. He's posing a question and asking us if we believe or not believe. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like he's just asking me to go pick a side. Hey, I just want to know, what if you can't find better benefit package? Now I have to go, well, which way am I going to go with this? But the minute that I hunker in and go, Donnie's right. Donnie's not trying to be right. Donnie's just posing a question. Donnie.
I don't like Donnie. Let's not call it.
He's just asking a question. It's like our doubt is just asking a question that's actually presenting an opportunity to prepare us for liminal space, right? Like that we need preparation.
Or even if you can open the door of liminal space. Like if you can't, the doubt sets in before you even can go into that space of like, what is possible?
Yes.
What's the one thing that I need to do next? It's just one thing. You don't have to have it all figured out.
Yes.
You don't have to quit your job tomorrow. You don't have to move to another state tomorrow. Like just that one thing of like, how do I flesh this out?
Totally.
And get new information and realize, this is something I really want to pursue or do. And then another conversation.
Totally.
One more thing that you have to do.
Just one more. And that was, I think, my biggest takeaway from our podcast of Walking in Faith is it's like, faith, once you start down liminal space, until you grab onto the thing, right? And until you've manifested the dream, until you've actualized in a certain area of your life and gotten the result that you decided to chase, it is one step at a time, or a few, right? But like, you don't get the whole thing. When you're creating something that you've never created, doing something that you've never done, even if it's been done by someone else, which a lot of times our dreams, other people have done something similar. It's just us choosing to do it in a new way, in a new flavor, in a new time. But we just get the next couple of steps. And so I feel like Donnie is there every single time. If we use it as an opportunity to do a few push-ups, if we use our questions of doubt as an opportunity just to say, what do I believe? This is just asking me to believe, because my dreams need me to be a believer. My dream needs me to believe. Right? Like faith that can't be tested can't be trusted. If I can't be tested, I can't be trusted. And so I think that doubt is just testing us, not because we have a sick God or a God who's like, oh, I'm going to play a really weird joke on these guys. But it's like he needs us to be strong. He needs to know that if we can be tested, just like muscle, right? If we're working out, the way that I'm going to build strength is by putting some pressure on it. That's what it's all about. And so as I start moving towards from where I am to where I want to be, that liminal space in between that I'm presented with doubt after doubt and question after question and all the quiet and all the ambiguity and all the disorientation is actually there because it's like teaching me new things in my brain. Like it's creating new pathways of understanding. That's why your brain actually does that, because your brain has created all these pathways of understanding for the point of shortcuts. Like we're thinking so many thoughts all the time that the brain's like, turn left, just go left. When someone looks at you that way, they just don't like you, go left. Mm-hmm. You know, and it just creates these patterns like, oh, you know, if you fail, that means you're not worthy. Boom. It's just a pathway so you can quickly understand terminology, right? Mm-hmm. It's unconsciously competent. So when you start to do new activities, your brain is almost like it's trying to turn right, and it's never turned right before. And so it's like wigging out a little bit.
Yeah.
But the more you do it, and the more you do it, and the more you do it, you're creating new pathways in the brain. Like you're opening up your understanding.
Yep. Doubt is making a decision without having all the information.
That would be it. Yes. You're making a decision without having all the information, which is then why you have fear.
Yep.
Because it's false evidence, right? So you're making a decision with not enough information. So it's false evidence appearing real. That's exactly what happens.
But it's not having and someone I listened to, in the real estate world, he gives an example of like, if I paid you $100,000, his name is Pace Morby. If I give you $100,000 to jump out of a plane, would you do it? Mm-hmm. Most people, what would your answer be?
Sure.
If I give you $100,000, you jump out of a plane.
Without a parachute?
No, you don't have a parachute.
Oh no.
Sorry. Yeah. Would you jump out of a plane for $100,000?
Without a parachute?
Without a parachute.
No.
Okay, what if I told you that plane was on the ground?
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's having all the information.
That's so good.
You can't make a decision if you don't have all the information.
That's good.
So it's one thing, one question away from, okay, I don't have a parachute. No. Well, where is that plane?
Okay, so let's just swap this out in relationship to Donnie. Remember, Donnie, she's asking a question. Would you jump out of a plane without a parachute if I gave you $100,000? We're like, no, Donnie. Deciding
Let's call him Donnie.
As opposed to deciding, as opposed to, wait, let me ask some clarifying questions. How high am I? Right? Like,
there again, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the one, just asking and getting clear on that one next thing. So doubt, there again, is just not having all the information and making a decision.
Yeah.
So once you have the decision, then you can make and see if is it right for you or wrong for you.
Yeah,
I remember a family member telling me that real estate, landlord, bad land or slumlord.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And then I thought about it and I'm like, have they ever owned and rented real estate? No. So there again, that's probably right for you based off of the truth that you came up with and live by now. But that's not my reality.
Yeah.
Because there are slumlords and there are really good landlords too.
For sure.
So there again, you get to choose through this process, but it's having the right information and asking and seeking out. So there again, when you have doubt, if you don't have the right thought, you need to go seek out and get a new thought to see if it is the right decision or not the right decision for you.
Yep. I think that's in theory how I would encourage people to overcome their doubt. Picture Donnie. Travis doesn't like Donnie.
No, Mr. Doubter. Mr. Doubter.
Donnie's just asking a question. He doesn't want to be right or wrong. He actually has no preconceived notions. He has no interpretation on the question. He's just asking the question. And it's simply our opportunity to go, I don't have enough information. Thank you for presenting the question. I need to go find out what's next. I need to get curious. I need to go, I need to envision. I need to wonder. I need to do my homework a little bit.
And most of the time people stop at that question when they don't know the answer.
Well, because it goes, oh, you're right. No, he's not stating a fact. It's not a fact. It's a question. Mm-hmm. You need to go find the truth. Not
your truth.
That's what I'm saying. Not a biased truth. Not a judgment. Not a truth based upon the past. No, a truth based upon where you're going. A truth based upon the Word of God. A truth based upon your dream. You need to run it through your own filter. So it's a question. Your doubt is not a statement. It's a question. That's how you overcome it, is that you simply go, oh, it's just a question, and I need to find aligned truth. I need to find the truth based upon what God's called me to, based upon my dreams, based upon what heaven has for me, based upon my visions, based upon my goals. Now I can have something. Now I have the full picture.
Mm-hmm. So overcoming doubt, will you sum that up as far as for people listening and the process that we have gone through, or going through, the checks and balance of overcoming doubt?
Overcoming doubt is simply, if you consider from a place of overcoming doubt, is just building the opportunity to be stronger. That's all it is. It's just asking the question. Doubt is just
be stronger. What do you mean by that?
It's doubt is simply an opportunity to strengthen your belief. That's what I'll say. Doubt is just an opportunity that's asking you, what do you believe? Well, what if you fail? Good question. What if I fail? Well, if I fail, this could happen, right? Then what? Then what? Then what? Yeah, but I still want to do this. Like, I want to fail a million times at the thing that I want most. Great. Okay, then there's my answer. Right? Like, well, what happens if you make the wrong choice? Thank you, fair question. What happens if I make the wrong choice? Then I would learn the lesson and then make the right choice.
Not do that again.
Not do that again. Okay, great. There's my answer. Right? Like, well, what happens if someone disappoints you? Okay, question. What if someone disappoints me? Right? Doubt again doesn't say you're going to be disappointed. That's fear. I've already decided, right? Mm-hmm. It's the question that goes, well, what if you're going to be disappointed? It's probably true. I'm probably going to be disappointed. I'm probably going to disappoint myself once or twice. Someone's probably going to disappoint me because we're people and we're human. And so, but, right, like, I'd rather be disappointed heading in the direction that I want to be than disappointed staying where I'm at. So I guess disappointment's par for the course. Now when disappointment happens, you're like, par for the course. I don't like it, but it's just par for the course.
Yep.
So doubt is almost like preparing you to build your belief so you can move through liminal space, because on the other side of liminal space, guess what? It's actualization.
It's your dream.
It's your dream. We're living the dream, right? We have to move through it. That's the power of doubt. Thank you for that therapy session.
Thanks for listening to the Dream On podcast. Once again, sponsored by the Dream Factory & Co. We appreciate you guys listening, and join us next time on Dream On.
On behalf of both of us, thank you for listening to another episode of Dream On. Don't forget to visit our website, The Dream Factory & Co., for all the show notes and other tools and resources to get you unstuck, clear, and helping you reprogram your thoughts and beliefs so that you can live out your dreams with a community that supports and challenges you. Until next time, dream on.